Welcome to Psychic Bent. My name is Carrie.
And I'm Kim. We are two sisters wanting to help other psychics learn and grow in their abilities and to help educate about spirits, angels, and everything psychic.
In today's episode, we're going to discuss the Clairs, what they are, what they do, and how to develop them. What are the Clairs? The Clairs are types of psychic abilities that correspond with the five senses of seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, and tasting. The four main Clairs are clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and claircognizance. In addition to those, there are also clairalience and clairgustance. Kim, before we get into the Clairs, I was curious, since you can develop most of your Clairs, which one do you feel is your strongest?
Well, I feel that my strongest is clairsentience because it is major part of being an empath. And I am definitely an empath. How about you?
I think clairaudience is probably my strongest. As we've been doing this, research for the podcast and just trying to develop our senses, that we've been trying this for a while, I can see overlayering of the different ones, but I do think that clairaudience is probably my strongest.
Yeah, I could see that.
Throughout this episode, we will be addressing what fears or anxiety you might have about working with your abilities. I believe people expect psychic abilities to be bigger than what they are. A good example is everyone has intuition, which is a psychic ability.
Yes, it is. It is one that a lot of people tend to ignore, that feeling whenever your intuition is telling you, don't do that, or you should do that, and they ignore it.
And then usually suffer the consequences of ignoring it.
Oh, yes, we do.
Which we've all done.
Yep.
I have an example of fear, and people who, when you don't own who you are, you have a fear. You're not wanting someone to know whatever it is you're hiding from them, whether it's your psychic abilities or beliefs, systems, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
When you don't own that, it just hurts you more with developing your abilities. And I think,
yeah.
Kim, I'd like to share a story with our listeners about me owning who I am. And of course, this was at work. I met a nice lady. We became friends, and we had gone to dinner one evening, and she was discussing how she works in a different department at work than I do, and that they were offering her this position, and she was not sure what to do. And then, of course, I got a message in my psychic inbox, so I conveyed it to her, and basically she looked at me funny, and she told me that what her fears were, and that basically addressed what her fears were with whether or not she should take this certain position. And about a week later, she comes to my desk, and for some reason, she starts to tell me how she doesn't believe in psychics, and that she thought it was fake.
Oh.
And I'm just looking at her like, this is uncomfortable.
Awkward.
Yeah. And I just let her go and keep saying, what she was saying. Didn't say anything, and I was at a crossroads. I could either just be like, okay, that's good, and leave it that way, or I could, say something to her with my coworkers around me, and basically letting everybody know, okay, I'm the psychic on this floor. So when she finished, I just looked her straight in the eye and said, well, Rosemary, I'm psychic, right? And she laughed. She thought I was joking. And I'm like, I'm serious. It was awkward, like you said. And she's like, what do you mean you're psychic? And I said, remember at dinner when you said this and I addressed your fears? She went, yeah, that was really weird. And I went, yeah, that was really psychic. And what's really funny is, it didn't affect our friendship at all. If anything, it helped her have more understanding. Um, her family, she has a son who has abilities that she's not aware of. So I think it kind of opened a door for communication for them.
Wow. That's great.
Do you have a story you'd like to share about fear?
Well, I have all kinds of fears, but
we're not talking about spiders and snakes. You don't have to. You okay? You don't.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was like, oh man, you put me on the spot there. Can I think of a fear one? Well, I mean, as far as a fear, I mean, that is one thing I do have to struggle with, is that I fear what judgment would come should I disclose or announce or really do any of the abilities that I have in front of people. So that is something I am working on.
Well, I think it's very important to know that not everyone is going to be thrilled when you tell them you have psychic abilities. There's always going to be naysayers out there that cling to a dogma, and therefore what you are naturally doing is the way God made you. But there's going to be those that are going to judge, and it just comes down to being secure in you knowing what you know, and
Right.
just having that faith that that Spirit's going to look out for you and usually open different doors once you start owning who you are.
Yeah.
Because where I work, in the department I am, they think I'm a novelty. They get a kick out of it on occasion. So, but where I work is also haunted. So when they see a ghost, they usually call me over to get rid of it. So it kind of turned out to be a good thing that Rosemary came to my desk, surrounded by coworkers. Because, you can't say anything without somebody listening in a closed office environment like that. And so I think it kind of laid the groundwork on, okay, I guess we're going to do this now. Let everybody know I'm psychic. Yay.
Yay. Let's see how they react.
Yes, just see how that goes. Which, for the most part, it's been very accepted. There's a few that don't believe it, but that's okay. That's their right.
That's how it goes. People are going to believe what they're going to believe.
Yeah.
You can't change their attitudes or opinions.
Exactly. And I think
as long as they don't hurt you, criticize you, or condemn you, or any of that, then it's fine. You let them believe what they want to believe, and they should let you believe what you're going to believe.
Yes. I mean, you can never change someone's mindset. They have to want to do that themselves. But you could just have faith in knowing that you shouldn't be afraid of being true to who you are.
Yeah.
And just know your audience.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah. Know your audience. I mean, you don't want to walk into certain places and, hello, I am your psychic friend. That might not end well.
Might not end well at all.
No. Yeah. So let's just jump on into these clairs. Let's talk about clairvoyance, which is clear seeing. Those who have the gift of clairvoyance can pick up psychic impressions through their mind's eye, via the third eye, and some people will see with their actual eyes.
Clairvoyant and psychic are not interchangeable terms. A psychic uses clairvoyance as a tool to receive messages from the spirit world.
Kim, I think that's a very good point, pointing out that clairvoyant and psychic are not interchangeable terms. I think that's a very important point to make. I think a lot of people get confused on terms, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Basically, with clairvoyance, it basically relays information through sight, visions, dreams, images, scenes, symbols, and like movie scenes. Clairvoyance, visions, and thoughts come in quickly, sometimes vivid detail, sometimes ordinary. It's nothing like the movies. It's not very dramatic.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I always get a kick out of when you see a movie that has a psychic in it and how dramatic it is. It's pretty funny, I think.
Yeah.
But I find a lot of things funny, so
Well, true.
that other people don't. So
Right.
so there we go. People who are highly creative, imaginative, artistic are already connecting to their gift via using the right side of their brain for inspiration. It can be more difficult for those who are constantly working with their left side of the brain, as they are more rational and find it harder to trust what they're seeing. So your right
Wow.
brain people are more in tune spiritually, the more you use your right brain, than it's an analytical person.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. I think I might have a left brain issue happening.
Yes, you do. Well, you work in IT. You do computer work, and that is very left brain. So you have to kind of flip a switch.
Right.
Just like when
And
like when you raise your vibration, you have to just make yourself aware and do something creative.
yeah, that's definitely something I have to work on. Flipping that switch.
Mm-hmm. There's many gifted clairvoyants are also clairaudient and clairsentient, which assists the clairvoyant to hear, see, and feel what the spirit is actually trying to communicate. Some clairvoyants can actually see color around people, animals, and plants.
So I have a story about seeing colors around someone. Our sister was singing in a wedding at a church, and it was beautiful, her voice. And I looked up and I saw that she was framed around a golden, bright yellow aura, is what they call it, around her. It was very bright and very yellow, and that represents strength and confidence. And at that point in time, she was very happy. She was at a very happy place in her life, and she was happy with her ability singing, and that shone in her aura.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. And I've seen other auras. A lot of them that I see are kind of like a light gray, and that kind of represents lack of energy. So a lot of people out there are very tired, apparently.
Evidently. I've seen colors, but it's more just like outlining the shoulder, head, going around the body. It's almost like someone took a big magic marker and just drew around their body. So I've seen it a few times. It doesn't happen all the time for me.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't happen all the time for me neither, but when it does, you really notice it because it's not what you're used to seeing.
I wonder if it's when you're just not trying to do it, that you're just not overthinking. Because like when you saw our sister singing, you were probably relaxed and enjoying what she was doing. It sounded beautiful, and I wonder if that has something to do with it.
That does have something to do with it. Whenever you're stressed out, tensed, or whatever, a lot of your clairs aren't going to work as they should. So you have to be in a higher vibration, not a lower vibration, to be able to really see, hear, utilize your clairs.
That makes sense.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you are someone who could easily visualize things or daydream, then this gift would be easier to open. I'm a big daydreamer, have always been a daydreamer, so I'm really going to work on my clairvoyance and see if how this works for me.
Oh. You'll have to let us know how that turns out.
It won't be dramatic, I can tell you. But yes, I will let you know. Most have the ability to see into past, so post-cognition, the present, the most common, and the future, precognition. Kim, what do you think about that?
Well, I personally have had experiences with this somewhat on a regular basis, and I'm thinking it is more of it could be either the past or the future experience that I have. Whether I'm driving in a car or a passenger, mainly when I'm a passenger, that this happens. And there's a close incident that occurs nearby, whether it's a tractor trailer moving just a little bit too close across the line, whether you're turning, and to me it appears that you're really close to a ditch that the driver may not see or know is there. I will automatically see in my mind's eye, as if like it's on the interstate, a rolling vehicle flipping and rolling in a violent accident. It is never my vehicle that I'm seeing, but a completely different car. It's not the vehicle that I feel is getting too close. It's nothing along those lines. It's always a different vehicle. And it really affects me when it happens.
I'm sure.
Really tend to overreact whenever it does happen. And I think I might have had a witness to one of those incidents. Wouldn't you say, Karen?
I would say so. Are you going to say
she was
more
on
that?
She was on the driver of whenever I had one of the experiences, because I felt she was a little too close to the ditch pulling out of our driveway, and I went, "Oh, ditch, ditch, ditch!" That's all that would come out, because my reaction immediately went to us in the ditch. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you, it didn't sound like she was saying ditch. That's all I'm going to say.
It's what I was saying, though.
And I did not end up in the ditch. I did not end in the ditch.
She did not. No, you did not. It's just, that is what happens. And I don't know if I am seeing an accident from the past or the future, but I believe that's why I believe I have those, is I am seeing, either reliving someone else's incident or seeing a future incident that's going to be occurring.
I think it's really important when you have those experiences not to get so excited because it scares the driver.
It does, and I'm guilty of it. I am working on my reaction. I really am. Usually I just close my eyes and bite my tongue.
People with clairvoyance abilities that have been strengthened will have vivid dreams that feel that they're actually happening. And Kim and I have both experienced this one.
Oh, yes. Yes, we have.
And it was funny. Side note, I realized one night I was having this dream. It seemed very real. And I didn't like what was happening in the dream. And all of a sudden, this little voice says, "Well, you don't have to participate." And I was like, I'm not going to participate in this dream. And it ended. And I thought, well, that's interesting.
Wow.
So if you're ever having a dream, you don't care how it's going, you don't have to participate. If you're a very vivid dreamer, you do have, self-will actually happens in the dream state as well.
Right.
And so that was very interesting. And so there's been more on one occasion that I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be in this dream. I'm okay with this.
That's something I need to work on there.
Another thing, and this might be tied to seeing color around people, but sometimes when you've developed your clairvoyant sense, you can actually see if someone is healthy or not healthy by looking at them.
That's interesting.
So that might tie in sometimes. So your gray, could that possibly be someone who's not healthy?
It could be. That could be the gray aura, because your aura changes colors. It doesn't stay the same color. But
right.
Yeah, you can look at it and you can see their energy, how they're feeling, how they're, what their emotions are at that time.
Yeah. Now, my favorite one is you can read people's minds, which can be very uncomfortable when you don't realize you're doing it.
Yeah, it can be.
I had a situation where I love gemstones. I love quartz as crystals. I wire wrap. I sell them at craft shows. Had a local.
And they're beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
You're
I had
welcome.
a local store that basically carried anything handcrafted, and I live in the mountains, and so basically it was all sorts of mountain artisans art in one store, and I thought this was a great opportunity. So
Nice.
I took my stones in, my jewelry, and it was a mother-daughter running this shop, and I just wanted to go into a little bit of, and they didn't know me too well at this stage, what the stones were, what they do, in case someone came in and wanted just more than just a pretty necklace, but they wanted something metaphysical that they needed at that point in their life. And as I'm trying to explain the metaphysical concept to the shop owners, I'm looking at the daughters, going over a couple things, and I hear the mother say, "That's bullcrap." So I stopped and I turned to the mother and I addressed that, you know what, just because it's not something you personally believe in, and that's fine, doesn't make it bullcrap. But you're going to have people that want to know the metaphysical properties of these stones. Not everybody, but some are going to want to. And you're going to need to understand that you're going to be catering to that clientele as well.
Right.
And so after I finished my little gentle rebuff, I'm looking at the most, and they're looking at me really weird. I thought, okay, well, this just got incredibly awkward for some reason. So I left. I wrapped up what I needed to do and went ahead and left. And the mother called me like a week later, and she goes, "Look, we got to talk about something." And I'm thinking, oh, great, here comes the metaphysical bullcrap thing again. And she's
right. Oh, yeah.
She's like, "The other day, when you were talking about the stones," I said, "Yes." And she's like, "I didn't say that's bullcrap out loud. I said it in my mind." Didn't know I could do that. Interesting. So it happened. I heard her voice plain as day in my ear, like she had said it out loud. So that's something that you do have to, it could be very awkward if someone says something in their mind and you react to it or you reply and they didn't say it out loud. So this is an awkward one.
I had a incident happen just the other day. Just perfect timing for this. So I was in the kitchen and my bonus kid came in from work and had bags, and she was putting some of the items she bought from the store on the counter, and she turned around and was looking around the kitchen, and I heard pie crust. And I said, "The pie crust is in the cabinet over there on the bottom shelf. You should be able to see it." And she went and got it, came over to the counter, turned to me and said, "How did you know I was looking for the pie crust?" And I said, "I heard you say pie crust."
See, it's awkward.
She says, "You've done that to me before. You know that, don't you?" I said, "Sorry."
It's hard to distinguish when it happens. Unless you're looking at their mouth and you see their mouth not moving, sometimes it's very difficult to distinguish when that happens.
Well, you're right. And I wasn't looking at her mouth because she was looking all around the kitchen, and I heard her say pie crust. It's kind of fun when it happens too, though, sometimes.
Hopefully she made a yummy pie.
Oh, well, yes, she did.
Oh, good, good. Sometimes you can visualize someone, how they look while you're communicating with them via the phone or internet, where you're not really doing a Zoom call where you can actually see the person, but some clairvoyants can actually just pick up what someone looks like via the phone or internet. I think that's kind of cool. I know
That is cool.
I know back in the day when I was on a dating site, which I don't really recommend, but that's a different podcast and a different day.
Yeah,
do a whole
we're
podcast.
Not doing that.
We could do a whole podcast on dating apps and why they're evil. But
yeah.
But someone that you'd look at a profile and they have this picture, and I'm like, that is not what you look like. Oh yeah, no, that is not what you look like. I could tell. I would get a little like image in my mind. Yeah, and usually I was right, because it'd be like, "Oh, you want to meet?" Because I just want to know what you really look like. Yeah, I was right.
I need to confirm. I need to confirm my vision here.
Yes. Most clairvoyants can easily visualize or imagine things. And then you can relate to things that you can easily relate to things you see rather than what you hear or feel. You rely more on your sight. So, Kim, what do you think about clairvoyance?
I think clairvoyance is an ability that I would like to expand a little bit more, learn more about, and try to develop my abilities better on that one. I think I have experienced signs of clairvoyance, but I think I probably want to expand more on those signs and ability. Because it goes well with the clairsentience, which is what I definitely have.
Well, I agree. Yeah, especially with the clairaudience that is my strong superpower, or whatever you want to call it. But we already have some of the signs for clairvoyance, but I do want to point out to our listeners that you're not going to have all of them. So if you're going through this list we just gave of clairvoyance, you're not going to tick all the boxes. That doesn't mean you can't develop them and get better and strengthen that muscle, that psychic muscle. But don't get discouraged if you're not ticking all those boxes and you want to. That doesn't mean you're not clairvoyant.
And a psychic doesn't necessarily have all of these abilities, but they do have strong abilities in several of these different clairs.
Exactly. Now, if you're clairvoyant and you're actually giving a reading for someone, which is a good way to strengthen your psychic clairs, is to give readings. It's best to not obtain any information from that person, why they want the reading. Just do the reading. And just whatever messages you get, don't try to make sense of it. Don't try to put it into a sentence form. The message isn't for you. It's for whoever the person you're reading is. And that message is more likely going to resonate with that person. So if you get this image of, an apple pie, well, apple pie might be something linked to their grandmother. And that would show that who's there giving a message.
So when you're doing these readings, do you write things down first, or are you just telling them immediately as to what you're seeing, or do you take a pause and try to not necessarily analyze it, but put into words description as to what you're seeing? Or do you just see it, say it, done?
Well, when you're getting a reading, you should have pen and paper to write down what the person is telling you, because you're going to get so much information that could be just one word, could be a couple words for each thing. And you need to either, record the session or write down what is being said. Not verbatim, obviously, but write down, because it may not make sense then when you're getting the reading, but later on you're going to look back and go, oh, yeah, that's what that meant. Yeah, I got it now. I had a reading done, 4 years ago. And she said something about my grandkids, a boy and a girl. And at the time, I'm like, I don't have any grandkids. Well, I had married someone after that who had grandkids the exact age.
Ah, yeah.
So she could see it clairvoyantly what was going to happen. And I'm like looking at her like, I don't have that.
Okay, so you were on the receiving end of that reading.
That particular reading, as an example. So,
right.
To answer your question in a very long formatted way.
No, that's right.
I just squirreled on you. Sorry.
No. That's a perfect example of how the person receiving the message,
yes,
may not resonate with it at first, but then they
right.
do later.
Now, my responsibility on giving the reading is to make sure they are writing stuff down. I can't do the writing and get the stuff at the same time, because then I'm more concentrating on what I'm writing. Am I spelling that right? Is that legible? Those kind of,
mm-hmm.
And it kind of interferes with what needs to be done. So I don't do the writing. I give you the message. Sometimes, like I said, it doesn't make sense. And sometimes the readings are not scheduled. They just happen. Like I was at the local grocery store at the deli, and I kept looking at this girl's necklace. And a lot of times when I realize when I'm about ready to have a psychic inbox message, I'll stare at somebody for a while. And I don't know why I'm staring at them. I'm sure it's pretty creepy for the person who's getting stared at. Why is this lady staring at me? But I notice,
sure it is.
but I'll notice that I'm staring at someone. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I just have to stop myself. But I was drawn to this particular person's necklace. Very young girl. And she looked up, and I like your necklace. Because, I'm staring at her very intently. And she comes over, and, she's an employee at the grocery store, at the deli department. And she says, thank you. And I said, well, you're welcome. It's a very lovely stone. And you have something else there, though. There's something else there I can't see, but it's right there. And she's like, oh, and she pulls out this little flask that was kind of hidden by the stone. And I said, yeah, that's it. Didn't know what else to go with that. And she says, well, this has some of my father's ashes in it. And I went, oh, this makes so much sense now. Okay. So it ended up being a reading at the deli counter at the local grocery store. And again, with that fear factor, I've got people all around. You can't really quietly give a reading. And she was wanting a reading. She was just like, oh, are you psychic? I'm like, yeah. Can I have the fried chicken, please?
I'm only here for the fried chicken.
I'm here for the fried chicken. That's all I'm here for. But, I went ahead, and in this situation, I could see a dark shadow figure over her left shoulder, but he was standing like way back. He was like 6 feet behind her, not close. And then there were 3 people. I could see 3 people standing on the other side. And now I'm saying, when I'm looking at her, it's my left. So it was her right where the shadow person was. I had to put that into her perspective because we're facing each other. And then on her left side was a man and 2 women. And of course, she wants to know who's with her. And I'm like, well, you've got this black thing about 6 feet behind you that I don't care for. So I don't know if it's staying back there because I'm here or if it's normally. And she wasn't surprised about that. She had dabbled in, there's, without light and darkness, you have to have both. And she had dabbled in some occult things that were a little darker.
Oh.
But, and, you know, at that time, that was probably her path, but she had since stopped dabbling in that. And I think, side note, don't dabble in something if you haven't researched it.
Yeah, it can
You
be
know,
very dangerous for you.
It's just like a Ouija board. If you don't know how to close a portal, don't touch the board.
Yeah.
So that black thing is always with her, waiting. And that's what I told her. I said, well, that's waiting for you to return to your other ways. If you do, that's what that is.
Mm.
And so that was a little awkward because, I mean, I didn't know she had dabbled in anything. I didn't know her past, didn't know her from Adam. And I've never seen her again. So I just kind of like, that's what that is, you know. So just so you know, with everything, there's a repercussion. And if you go back to that, please learn how to protect yourself better before you do anything. And then, of course, she wanted to know who else was with her. And I told her that her father, he was the first one in line. I could see him. Then I could see a grandmother, matronly woman. I said, and there's another woman that she died before you were born, but she's family. She's part of the family. But she's been with you from day one. And that was, she goes, that's my aunt. And I said, okay, well, there we go. Can I please have my fried chicken now? And off I went. And again, that's that fear thing. You know, I could have just, oh, that's nice. I like your necklace, and moved on.
Yes.
But I was supposed to tell her some things. And, you know, the other things I told her are personal, you know, so don't need repeating. But, you know, that stuff I know I can share. So clairvoyantly, I was seeing these people.
Wow.
And where they were.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, so again, you know, don't judge the reading and don't try to make sense of a lot of the things. But it was like her dad, her grandmother, and it was her grandmother on her mother's side. And then it was the aunt.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, now we should probably cover how to develop and improve this ability. One way to develop it is spend time visually looking at the details of something that is directly in front of you. It could be a picture of something. It could be a piece of fruit in front of you. It could be a scene outside your window. Just picture something. Visually look at something, stare at it, study it carefully. And then once you have a mental snapshot in your mind's eye, try to recreate all of those details you just observed. That'll help strengthen the visualization images coming into your mind's eye, your third eye. And then when an image pops into your mind and it wasn't something that you created in your mind, then you know it was sent by the spirit world. It was an image that you received from spirit.
So basically staring at, let's just say, a picture and then closing your eyes and trying to rebuild that picture in detail is strengthening your ability. So when those messages do come in, you're able to identify what it is.
Right.
Well, that's good. That's an easy one.
That's an easy one.
I like easy ones. Easy ones are my favorite.
It's true. Okay, so the next is unblock and release your fears about your abilities. Keeping it blocked and keeping onto the fears holds anyone back from any of their abilities that they have. You're not going to be able to develop them if you're still hanging on to everything. And that's something I'm working on myself on things. And the way you can do that is by finding a quiet place, focus your breathing, and identify the source of your fear. Is it that you are frightened to know what others think of you? Or if they know you have this ability? Are you afraid that you are going off the, I hate to say it this way, a deep end or having a psychotic episode? Because some people when they first start experiencing these things, they think, oh my gosh, am I going crazy? I'm seeing these things or hearing whatever the other clairs could be. So it is something that you need to ask yourself, what is happening here? Get rid of the fear by repeating positive affirmations such as, I am ready to release any fear that is blocking my abilities. You can repeat it as much as you like, as often as you like, when you like. It really helps when you're meditating to put positive affirmations about you and your abilities and releasing these fears. That'll help that fear to lessen and go away and unblock your abilities so you can start working on them and strengthening them.
And I think you have to let go of the fear.
That's the hardest part,
Yeah.
is letting go.
Quit calling it back. Let it go. And I think that's why it's important, like you said, to do this affirmation a lot. Because if you feel that because you're comfortable with this fear, even though it's not good for you, you're comfortable with it. So you kind of like hold on to it like it's your little baby because you're comfortable with it. But it's actually hurting you.
And you've had the fear for years.
Yeah.
Chances are this fear has been there since you were a small child, depending on what that fear is.
Oh, and another thing that, of course, we're going to go into this at a different episode, but you could have a past life trauma that's causing this fear in this life.
Oh, good point. That's
so, identifying what the fear is may not make sense in this life, but you still need to try to release it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So you also can focus on your third eye chakra. It is located between your eyebrows and maybe a little bit above. It's responsible for seeing visions, flashes, and symbols. Close your eyes and visualize a horizontal oval between your eyes. That's your third eye. If the eyelid is closed, ask it to open. Repeat this until it opens. Once it's opened, you'll probably feel all kinds of wonderful feelings like love and warmth rush through your body with the third eye being unblocked. If you can't see the third eye, keep practicing. You will eventually be able to see it and open it and be able to utilize that chakra even better. Increase your visual imagination. You might start seeing lights, floating shadows, dots, or pictures in a variety of shapes, colors, sizes, lifelike, or even cartoonish. If the images appear to be fuzzy or unclear, ask the images to appear brighter and grow in size and strength. Ask with all your intentions. Please be brighter, unclear, whatever you're needing it to do so you can see that image clearly. Now, I believe you have a story related to a cartoonish image.
I do. I think it's a good point when you said to ask. I think so many people don't understand. It's a communication. You're working together as a team. You're in the spirit world. And I think that's great that you put out, you threw in there about ask to make it more legible, or I don't understand. Can you show it to me a different way? And I think that's great because a lot of people, get an image and they're like, oh, okay, that was weird and random. And they don't go any further with it.
Mm-hmm.
Give me more of a sign. I think that's great that you brought that up. I think it's a perfect point. But I do have an example. My grandfather, when he passed away, I was 6, I believe.
Something like that.
And he had been in a nursing home all of my life. So I didn't have the same relationship with him as, per se, my 2 eldest sisters, because they remembered him before he went into the nursing home, and they had those kind of memories of walking in Grandma's garden with Grandpa holding their hand and things like that. So I have been having this man, he looks cartoonish when he shows up, but he shows up randomly, and he's always, the feeling I get when he's there is just love and wonderful. And, he's dark hair that's swept back, just like what my grandfather's hair was. And very tall, but he was kind of cartoonish looking. But that's my grandpa. And I think because my memories of him are going with Grandma to the nursing home to visit him. Those were my memories. And they're not, I mean, what kind of memories of a 6-year-old can have, based on that. So when I first started seeing him, he doesn't talk to me. He's just there. He's smiling. He's happy. He gives me this great feeling of being loved. And then, one day I was looking at pictures and I'm like, oh, that's Grandpa. That's okay. I know who that is now. And he just kind of shows up randomly, but he has yet to speak to me, but I that takes energy, and showing himself takes energy. But when I do see him, it's usually he looks like a cartoon character, and he's very colorful. I see him in color. He's not a gray picture. He's in color.
Well, that's neat. Okay, so another way you can increase your ability of clairvoyant is to imagine you are on a small walking bridge that is over a gently flowing stream while holding 5 or 6 leaves. It can be however many leaves you would like to have. And try to really see in your mind's eye the landscape, the walking bridge, the little stream running under the bridge, and even your hand holding the leaf. And see yourself tossing a leaf into the stream and watching it flow down the creek, under the walk bridge, slowly flowing past the rocks in the creek, goes down to the bend, goes around the curve, and out of sight. And then see yourself taking the second leaf and following the same process of it falling into the creek, flowing under the walking bridge and down the creek and around the bend, and disappears around the corner. And do that with each leaf that you have in your hand. And don't worry if you cannot visualize all of this in your mind's eye clearly. That's what you're working on, developing the sharpness of visualization and being able, so whenever you do receive an image from spirit, that you're able to receive it clearly and be able to interpret it for whatever purpose it was sent to you.
And there's a lot of guided meditations that are similar to that. So it's very easy to access it. There's a lot of free apps out there that people can go to and get these guided meditations to help with their clairvoyance, to help them develop that particular scene to going through.
Right. That's true. There's plenty out there that you can definitely find one that could resonate with you. You can use clairvoyance to get answers to specific questions, but you have to be precise and very specific. General questions will get you general answers. So focus on questions that are of a specific matter. You do not want to ask broad questions such as, will I be happy? You're only going to get a general yes or no for that one because it's just such a broad question. So you want to be more specific. You want to think about exactly what you want to know about and ask that specific question, such as, will I make a living with my craft within the next 5 years? Or will I be getting a new apartment in the next 5 months? Something specific. And then wait for your answer to come.
And I think that sometimes if you don't get an answer, then it's not time for that answer, but you may get an answer to that down the road. So don't get discouraged if you do this and you don't always get an answer, because sometimes the question you're asking doesn't serve your higher self, and the answer does not serve you at this time. So don't get discouraged if by chance you don't get an answer. Sometimes I don't get an answer to a question right away. Sometimes it'll appear in my dream, the answer, when I'm sleeping.
When you're most receptive to receiving that answer.
Yes, and most relaxed, yes. Because if it's a really important question to you, then you may have some heightened anxiety when asking that question.
That's a good point.
So try to, ask the questions after meditating or, so you're more relaxed.
If the images you receive don't make sense, you can ask the higher spirits to clarify them. Answers will probably come in the form of feelings, thoughts, or sounds. Just remember, if you don't understand the message, you can always ask again for clarity. And have faith and believe. It is so important for you to believe in your abilities and have faith in yourself. That's what we're talking about, is faith in yourself and believe in you and your abilities.
I think that's huge. And you're not going to get it right 100% of the time. So you got to be easy on yourself, not get so hard on yourself if you're not correct with it, but also just believe in yourself. And I think there's so many people out there that just don't believe in themselves. You can do this, people.
Right. And they're just not secure in their knowledge of their abilities. That's the learning process.
Exactly.
Learn that they have the ability and that they can use these abilities to help themselves and help others. Write about your psychic experiences in a journal. You're going to hear from every one of these clairs, and further on through your journey, journal. It's so important. Write about your experiences in a journal. This can help you further develop and understand your abilities. It helps you to assess how valuable, reliable, and real they really are. And that goes back to helping you have faith and belief.
I was telling Kim the other day when we were going over the podcast, and she brought up the journals, and I'm like, I have two because I always misplace one. And then I have to go back and find it. So I have two journals. So I have to put the date in the journal, and so I could have two journals, like, could be back-to-back days, and the entries are totally in two different journals. So you don't have to have a limit if you are like me and write something down in the morning. When I first get up, I got to write down everything that came to me through the night, and then I go get ready for work. Or I'll maybe take it with me and leave it at work. Well, I've got Plan B journal ready to go when I get home, and then I actually have both of them together right now, so it's kind of a rarity.
And there's nothing wrong with having a journal at work, a journal at home, journal in your car. Hopefully you're not writing while you're driving.
Yeah, we don't do that. Don't do that.
No, don't do that. But I mean, it's okay to have as many journals as you need to write down your experiences.
Now, we don't have daily affirmations for all the clairs, but I do have one for clairvoyance. And that daily affirmation is, I allow the gift of clairvoyance to come to me through the opening of my third eye. I accept the positive visions and images that my spirit guides and guardian angels share with me to guide my spiritual path.
That's nice. I like that one.
So as a side point, we have a daily affirmation here, which means, of course, obviously you're going to say it daily. That's why you have it. But you also should be picking one of the clairs and working with it daily as well. So this affirmation is a great work into whichever example that Kim gave us of developing your psychic ability. They should go hand in hand together, for any of the clairs.
This brings us to the end of this episode of Psychic Bent. Since we have so much more information to share concerning the clairs, we have decided to release multiple episodes. Please join us next time when we continue with Clairaudience. May your light shine bright. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast, Psychic Bent. If you enjoyed Psychic Bent, please like, follow, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to Psychic Bent. We can be reached on Facebook at Psychic Bent Podcast. Our email address is psychicbent1@gmail.com. May your light shine bright.